is that like immediate aftermath of the Democrats being like, oh, we need a leftist Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
And everybody was like, Hasan. And I was like, I mean, yeah, but we also don't necessarily need the leftist Joe Rogan. We just need.
I agree. Which it's ironic because I've been saying that nonstop, and like,
you're saying that has made you the leftist Joe Rogan.
I'm saying it.
Oh,
Here, I'll grab that.
And I don't like dogs, but you're really good.
She's a big slobberer for sure.
Yeah.
First thing FD asked is is your dog friendly to black people? How many black people has your dog been around?
Because I listen.
No. I tell people all the time they get like dogs. I tell them to white people to train their dogs to as a puppy to be around like black and brown people in general. Yeah. It's not even a joke. Like
it's a real thing.
Yeah.
I now live around way more white people than I have my entire life. And I do not hate white people, but I realize I do hate their dogs. And like if it was my dictatorship that we were setting up in America right now, I would make every white person with a dog register on a list. And go through state mandated training before they're able to. She's like, no, keep going. Keep going.
No, she's been around. She's been around plenty of black people.
Yeah, because the types of things I have seen with white people and their dogs in the last year has blown my mind. I did not know it was that bad. So I got to let you go though. I got to pay attention to this.
Okay. To
the speed of this chat.
Yeah.
Whatever else is going on. I heard we talking news today.
Yeah.
There's a blackout in Europe or something?
Yeah, there's currently a blackout happening in Spain and Portugal. They're saying it's like
the whole country?
Like I think they've like recovered a little bit, but I'm not entirely certain as to where like how it happened, but I think it's because of let's see.
How do we blame this on immigration?
Yeah, massive power outages hit Spain, Portugal, and France, slowing travel and affecting commuting travel. Airports have been disabled. Shops and offices are in the dark. It's unclear how many people have been affected. Parts of France were also briefly hit. The Spanish government is holding an emergency meeting in Madrid. Lights coming back on in central Lisbon. Coco Gauff shares her blackout experience in a dark locker room after the Madrid Open match. Spain declared a state of emergency. What was it? What was the reason?
Yeah, like what happened? It says like, I know, countries in Europe are
was it a
smaller
hack
states
or whatever, but
like to take out the entirety of a grid is not just a simple malfunction.
At first I thought it was because of like a space storm or something. Like sometimes stuff like that happens where it works like a
solar
EMP
flare or some shit.
Yeah. That's what I thought it was, but I don't know. Neoliberals tried privatizing the energy sector and it fucked it up. I mean, I don't know.
Aren't we all running on neoliberal power though? That's like at least the standard is the neoliberals can run a power grid enough to not have an entire country.
Texas.
Unless it's Texas, but that's not the they don't have that good old neoliberal, effective bureaucracy. They just are running on diet fascism.
Kaya, place.
Oh, that is not how shit happens in front of my house in my neighborhood.
No, she's very well trained. She's awesome.
But I remember you were training like when I was here. I guess was that 2 years ago now? Maybe last summer.
So yeah, like when she was a little baby.
Last summer, yeah, that's wild shit. Yeah, I'm back in the giant Hasan mansion.
Yeah. Yeah, you're back. You're back in the bunker.
This house is bigger since the last time I was here. The socialist mansion.
Yeah, it grew larger, and it's also more expensive now because every time my haters grow by numbers, the house value goes up. Now they say I have a $10 million
home.
Now I have a $10 million castle. Yeah,
of course. I'm not gonna talk about. I did buy a home not long after I left you.
Oh no.
But I'm not. I will be off social media about my house, and also I put kids in this. People give me a pass. Just have kids. Once you have kids,
no, they will not give me a pass. They'll be like, they'll say, socialist but had a child in a capitalist world and is like damaging the environment.
Got you. I will say,
because I put my family in this house. Like my family comes and stays with me for months on end. You know what I mean? They don't give a shit about that.
Right. Yeah.
It's like I take care of my family, and they still. There's like AI articles written about how my dad is a billionaire. They say that my dad is a billionaire, and that
he used to hang with Elon Musk's dad.
Yeah, he's one of the richest people in Turkey. They say.
Yeah, wild business. Yeah, the hate for you. Like I knew there was hate for you when I was here last time. I've known that for a while.
Yeah,
it definitely has increased, and it's gotten. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing great.
You're having a moment. You're having a moment.
Yeah. It doesn't really go anywhere. It's because especially because it's always the same shit.
Yeah, and
it's always like incredibly frivolous.
Yeah, yeah. My thing is always when I care enough, is to ask for details. Yeah. And that's what I've been telling, because now that I'm getting just the fact that I'm positively associated with you, but also once you hit as much notoriety as I finally gotten to now, you just kind of become an economy of your own, like to have your own haters, to have your own anti-fans.
Yeah, of course.
So what I've been telling people is just listen, when they say something really bad about me, just ask for details. Just tell them to explain. 7 times out of 10, they can't. And those 3 out of 10 times, it's the pettiest, most online brain thing possible. Yeah. And it doesn't really go anywhere.
Wait, let me fix this as well. Here we go.
I clearly need a better camera. This is like,
but these cameras are annoying though. They're Lumix. I wouldn't recommend them. I recommend like the Sony FX. I think it's like FX7 if you're gonna use it. These are studio cameras. They need like they need
all the things.
They need a lot.
This is a much more serious. Even the stand is way more like my shit. I got an a Brio like webcam that's just dangling on top of one of my monitors. I don't even have that shit mounted properly. But I am streaming chat. I am now a Twitch. I'm officially a Twitch not affiliate.
Partner.
Partner.
Is it above affiliate?
I don't know. Whichever one.
Do you have a check?
No, I don't have a check. So I'm
so you're affiliate.
Okay, I'm affiliate. Well, I'm getting paid. Yeah. I've made $200 off Twitch in the last.
Yeah, you can get paid as an affiliate. Yeah.
So check me out. I'll save all my shout outs for later in the chat.
Yeah.
But
have you watched Sinners yet?
Oh yeah, of course.
Then we gotta talk about that as well.
Yeah. I'm Sinners.
So good.
Sinners was amazing. I'm in the middle of fighting people about Shedeur Sanders. I don't know if I want to. I don't know if that's ready for your chat. I don't know.
No, we could talk about that too for sure. We can talk about Bill Belichick too if you want
to. That's a perfect segue, because Bill Belichick. The people call me anti-white. No one's more anti-white than Bill Belichick.
Really?
Yes. And people would think it's the opposite.
Yeah, because of Tom Brady.
Because of Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. I researched this recently because he had his own rant section in this Shedeur Sanders video that should come out tomorrow. And I cut it because I was like, I'm getting off topic. This is a whole other video now. He's had more white receivers than like the entire league combined as like his one tenure of coach. Like it was 20 years, but like no team has had that. He had, I think it was 9 different wide receivers in a 15, 20-year coaching career at New England.
So he's doing DEI, you're saying?
It's even worse than like, it is how they describe DEI, but it's worse in that he's doing it on purpose specifically so he can control and underpay his employees. That's the really insidious part. Yeah, you didn't think about that shit, did you? Like Belichick, because the reason why I brought him up during the Shedeur shit is that the NFL has never really like embraced the fact that it has these rich black millionaires that come into their league wearing all the jewelry, being flashy, the way ironically Deion Sanders like showed the league you build a black star. So they've never really been a fan of that, but they've tolerated it because like these are stars, they're popular, whatever. But Bill was like, no, never that. So if you go and you look at Bill Belichick's like NFL record as a coach, it's not his winning record, but the type of players that have played for him, he's never had a superstar outside of Tom Brady. He's only had contributors. And then the type when he does get a high level player is usually after that player has gotten in trouble somewhere else. So when you look at some of the players, the best players that Bill Belichick has ever had, Antonio Brown for a week, Chad Johnson, Chad Ochocinco for like a year or two, Terrell Owens for like a year, Albert Hainsworth, Corey Dillon, Dante Stallworth, like the list goes on that he hardly ever would pay you. If you had an attitude coming into the league, Bill didn't have nothing to do with you. You take that attitude somewhere else.
They're saying Randy Moss.
Randy Moss, thank you. That's another one. I knew I was forgetting one. Randy Moss is another one. So just like Randy Moss, right, comes in the league, is great, but keeps getting in trouble, keeps having run-ins with the law or wherever. I think Randy Moss only had one run of law, but he's very much a pariah. And then after being a pariah for multiple years, he goes to New England. He keeps his mouth shut because he knows if he doesn't do his thing at New England, keep his mouth shut, he's probably out the league. Resurrects his career, I think Randy actually never got a Super Bowl, ironically, with Tom Brady. He's the best receiver to ever play with Brady. I don't think he ever got a Super Bowl. Hernandez, right? Hernandez is another one. Hernandez is the only person that he took on with alleged character issues, or maybe he didn't know Hernandez was a secret murderer.
Well, I mean, not to that degree, probably.
Yeah, probably not to that degree.
I don't think anybody knew that it was like that.
But the flip side, right, is so we have all these black guys with character issues that are elite talents. They can't be on the team outright. They have to come after they've been through the ringer. Mm-hmm. But he loves going and grabbing Gunnar Zolewski off of in the 7th round of a draft and seeing if he can turn little Gunnar Zolewski into his next Julian Edelman or Wes Welker or Chris Hogan, or I think I had a list, but I erased that shit. But it's like somebody in the chat, go ahead to Pro Football Reference and get that Amendola. I think Eric Decker played for him for a second. There's a ton of different white receivers, and they're all the same guy. Except for maybe Eric Decker, they're all 5'9", undersized, marginally athletic, but really hungry, scrappy white guys. He plays smart. He plays the game right way, sneaky athletic, all that shit.
Lunch pail.
Brings his lunch pail every day. None of them ever got paid by him. They never got, he would have them there because he could control them. They wouldn't say shit. And he could give them middling contracts like he did everybody. He didn't even pay Tom Brady. I don't know what they were doing with their salary cap that whole time. Yeah, so Bill Belichick hates white people. That is the take here you find on the Hasanabi.
Okay, this is good to know. I mean, yeah, underpaying Tom Brady is a perfect demonstration of hating white people and not giving white people the appropriate
what they deserve. DEI ruined Tom Brady's his marriage.
Yeah.
DEI ruined Tom Brady's marriage.
All right. So we're not going to be talking about sports any longer, chat. So stop freaking out.
Your chat is like my viewers. It's like
they're
sports.
like, dude, stop talking about sports. Get back to the Trump administration. What we were covering earlier today was the Trump administration deporting U.S. citizen children 2, 4, and 7 years old alongside their parents. These are not like the violent criminal gang members that the Trump administration murderers, right. Claimed that they were deporting on this like mass deportation scheme. And instead, lo and behold, they're deporting random people. Many of them, majority of them, overwhelming majority of them don't have any criminal background whatsoever. Shocking. And the Trump administration is actively working to deport these people. And now, alongside their parents, they're deporting their children that are American citizens as well. Mm. These people are also married to U.S. citizens, too, on top of that. That's what's going on. Judge says 2-year-old U.S. citizen appears to have been deported with no meaningful process. The girl was deported Friday with her mother to Honduras, despite her father's efforts to keep her in the United States.
That's wild.
So it is shockingly cruel and completely unjustifiable. It's cruelty for the sake of cruelty, and here we are. You know,
she's joining us from the White House right now. Priscilla, you were at that briefing. What did Tom Homan say this morning?
Well, Wolf, the White House is certainly highlighting the progress that
Priscilla
they have.
Serving like she go back like 3 seconds and look at this serve she's giving the camera. What?
I think you're wrong. I think Wolf is serving.
Is Wolf serving more? No, that's
Wolf is always serving. I I have to recognize that. Apparently, apparently he knows who I am. So that's
okay. Well, we shout out the Wolf.
Shout out Wolfman.
Wolf, the White House is certainly highlighting the progress that they have made and say they have made along the U.S.-Mexico border, where the numbers have plummeted over recent months. But of course, as you just mentioned, all of this is happening against the backdrop of what we are learning about 3 U.S. citizen children who were sent back to Honduras with their mothers. Now, these are 2 separate cases. This is in both cases, according to court filings, these mothers had been going to routine ICE check-ins when they were detained and then later removed to Honduras. Now, when that occurred, when they were detained, they were given the option to be removed with their children, and they opted for that. But the attorneys in these cases say that there was very little time to make any decisions or have conversations with relatives. And so they are raising the alarm again about the lack of due process. Now, when I asked the White House border czar about this, he said again that this was the decision of the mothers. Take a listen.
This is a decision of the mothers?
If you choose to have a U.S. citizen child, knowing you're in this country legally, you put yourself in that position. You put your family in that position. What we did is remove children with their mothers who requested the children depart with them. This was a parental decision. Parenting 101. The mothers made that choice.
Is this
now?
Pause
if you
for
recall,
a second, because you have your enemies, I have my enemies. My enemies, thankfully, are less unhinged. But so I've been on this balancing act trying to engage with black liberals around stop being black liberals.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, he worked for Obama, didn't he? The borders are that they just showed.
Tom Homan? Yeah. He did. Obama. He worked at ICE under Obama.
Pretty much the same exact role, or not? Maybe not the head role. Yeah. But like in the same capacity.
Yes, but also so the thing is, Barack Obama did this thing where they restructured what they considered deportations to mean something different than what it previously did. So there's like 2 different types of, I guess, deportations, right? There's the catching someone in the process of like entering the border and then quickly sending them back versus interior deportations, interior removal versus removal at point of entry.
Right.
The Obama administration changed what deportations used to mean to everyone being stopped and returned at point of entry, which is why his numbers grew dramatically. Part of the reason why he did this was to capitulate the right-wing framing on this, to make the claim that like, no, we're taking this very seriously. Right?
We're taking reaching across the aisle.
We're doing expedited removal. We're doing we're catching people crossing the border and then subsequently removing them. And so the deportation numbers exploded. Another part of the problem, I guess, is that there are more people trying to enter the country under Democratic leadership because I think undocumented migrants perhaps naively think that Democrats are less
their friends.
Democrats are kinder and more humane than Republicans, not realizing that they're not. Right.
The kids were in cages at that time as well.
Yeah, exactly. So the major difference in Trump 1 versus Obama was that Trump decreased the limitations that ICE had for engaging in interior removal, because the understanding broadly for Americans was relatively sympathetic to migrants in general. We are surrounded by undocumented migrants, some of which we know are undocumented, some of which we don't know are undocumented. It's just a normal part of living in the United States of America. There's like more than 10 million. According to Trump's estimations, 20 million undocumented migrants is a big chunk of the U.S. population. Therefore, the idea is that like if you've been living here and you obviously haven't done like an egregious crime because you've been living here for a decade plus, like that it is whatever. Like it is what
Figure
it
that
is.
shit out.
And that Americans actually, ironically, overwhelmingly choose mass amnesty for people like that over deportation when given the option. The problem is the Democrats have never actually shown that option or never communicated that option. Right. And they certainly haven't done so. They certainly didn't do so in the Joe Biden administration. Right. where they basically
because it
took
became not the best political football. It
Yeah.
became very clear, like under Obama, because you would have been pretty young
Yeah.
at that time. But like I remember vividly, like immigration was not something I thought about until Obama. Now I was in my mid 20s, so I'm not as politically inclined then as I was now. But I'm pretty confident that like the way we think about immigration, the way that's a political football now, that starts under Obama, because that becomes a place to point to. Every couple of years, the right needs to kind of recycle their boogeymen.
Yeah. It was always around, like post Reagan, I would say. It was definitely like a point of contention that the Republicans could constantly hit the button on.
Right.
But it was a known one, and it grew in severity,
Intensity.
I think, under the Bush administration, and then certainly grew under the Obama administration, because it was like a great way to attack Barack Obama, to be like, oh, he is doing an apology tour globally, and he wants America to be run over by Mexicans.
Yeah.
It's just like pure white nativist nonsense.
Yeah.
Obama, on the other hand, was still pretty horrible when it came to immigration as well. He did something that the Democrats used to do back in the day before Biden, and that is a back and forth. Like Obama used to do the I'll give you some concessions on immigration, but then I'll get something in return.
Mm-hmm.
That was the bargain. That was the idea that like Obama was going to be the deporter in chief, which was ridiculous and unjustifiable, of course. But then simultaneously, he was going to do the Dreamer Act, right? For DACA. The Deferred Action on Childhood Arrivals. For those of you who don't know, DACA is a program that was implemented by executive order under the Obama administration to offer some protections with very, very severe restrictions and very severe qualifiers to children that had crossed the border alongside their parents and had grown up in the United States of America. They would get deferred action. As in they would get protection from deportation, basically, as long as they went to school, got a job, did not leave the country. Like there are so many restrictions on DACA immigrants. It's actually pretty crazy. So, yeah. Clinton built a wall, Bush created ICE, Obama expanded deportations, but the DACA, Trump is creating a Third Reich based on immigrant persecution. That's a pretty solid assessment of the situation. Yeah. So, in any case, this is something that I was very critical of the Biden administration on, because I know that they were going to fucking use immigration as a talking point over and over and over again. And and Biden had actually come into office on a wave of pro-immigration activism, because people forget that the attitude towards, and the mistreatment of undocumented migrants under the Trump administration was so gross and so severe that you had Democrats talking about abolishing ICE.
Right.
Now, a lot of that was purely resistance, liberalism, and aesthetics, but
yard flags.
But the overall public sentiment had shifted back in favor of undocumented migrants. But Biden very quickly, Biden basically didn't do anything about that. And then you have the famous Haitian migrants in Texas getting whipped by Customs and Border Patrol on horseback. Yeah. And in the aftermath of that, the Biden administration basically took a very reactionary stance towards migrants in general. And that only calcified this position. And on October 6th, ironically enough, right before October 7th, the Biden administration did something that I consider to be unconscionable, where they adopted the right-wing framing entirely, where the Biden camp came out with their own anti-immigration package, their bill, that was written by an Oklahoma senator who was super reactionary, super far right.
And they still couldn't get that through Congress, though.
And
like,
they still couldn't get that through Congress because the Trump administration, or not the Trump administration, the
just Trump
campaign,
at the time. It was like,
Trump
nope.
at the time said, don't do this, don't pass this. And that, however, was a major blow to Democrats in general, because that basically was an admission that the Democrats were lying about saying that the border wall is racist, or lying saying that like immigrants, this is a nation built by immigrants for the past 40 years.
All
the
that shit is
Democrats
completely
had said.
gone in like
all
a
that
3-year
shit's gone.
span.
And they adopted the right-wing framing that immigrants actually constituted a national security threat. That was new because Democrats had not previously agreed to this false notion that immigrants actually constitute a national security threat. But now that they were putting forward a national security focused bill to deal with immigrants and immigrant detention, all of a sudden they were admitting the Republican framing, normalizing this attitude amongst their constituents. The only impact that this had was they didn't win a single Republican vote on this because they were like, oh, these guys are finally competent about immigration. The only impact it had was there were a whole bunch of liberals who get their notes from the Democratic Party who now also believed that immigrants were constituting a national security threat. That's why Trump came into office with 66% approval on mass deportation.
That's a quick question on that, because hasn't that finally started to drop?
Yes.
I did a follow-up video a couple of weeks ago, about a month ago now, on like my initial Trump take. But that video was like 2 weeks after, I don't know, you haven't done, are you coming out with any 90-minute long video essays anytime soon?
No.
Okay, well.
No.
In the prestige land of the video essayists. You write the essay, the editing can take 1 to 6 months. So by the time, and so when I was writing, he had just had like the first, not the first, one of the earliest like popularity polls or whatever. And he was more popular than he's ever been as a president. And part of that was because at the time it was like 60% of people approved his immigration stuff. But it seems like that's finally dropped.
But to be fair to you as well, I had a conversation with Ested Herndon of the New York Times, who I love. I have him on all the time. He's one of my favorite New York Times reporters. And in our conversation, he did a follow-up initially to the original run-up thing that he had done, where he asked like his family members and a whole bunch of people that he'd met on the campaign trail, like what they now thought about Donald Trump. And a lot of people, and this was only like a month or two ago. And that attitude has shifted dramatically even since then with the Kilmar Abrego Garcia story. Basically, what he had told me at the time was, a lot of Americans are still oblivious to the deportation stuff. They don't really consider it to be a major issue. They mostly were at that time focusing on Elon Musk and Doge and the unpopularity of mass layoffs coming from Doge. My argument always has been, both under the Biden administration, going all the way back to February 2021, when the CBP Haitian migrant whipping imagery came out, was that if the Democrats don't offer a counter narrative to the lies and the smears that these Republicans are consistently presenting, and right-wing sentiment dominates the media about migration, immigration specifically constituting a national security threat, then Americans are going to become more reactionary. They're going to care less about immigrants. If the Democrats, once Trump was elected, I kept saying Democrats have to launch an opposition against this deportation agenda at some point. You need to make Americans aware that this is happening. There's far too many things that the Trump administration is doing, but this is one of the most significant, most consequential aspects.
It's also an easy one to display.
And it's also, it's super easy to vilify the horrifying practice.
I've seen enough social media posts of watching like ununiformed ICE people walking up to like women and children and essentially threatening them in like the most coming out of courts. You know what I'm saying? Going into
not even ICE
elementary
agents.
school.
We found out that ICE doesn't have the logistics to do mass deportation at this scale, which is why they've deputized like random right-wing militias and shit now too.
I did not know that one.
Is truly, truly terrifying. So, and lo and behold, the reports started coming in. Shouts out to ProPublica and all of these other institutions that were investigating the background, the criminal background of all of these immigrants that were being deported to CCOT. And we found out stories of the likes of Andre, for example, from California, the Venezuelan from California, who's a gay hairdresser who had a tattoo of mom and dad on his arms. And he was deported to CCOT with no due process whatsoever, simply because he had these tattoos. And the DHS was saying these tattoos are enough to say that he is Tren de Aragua. right? Which Trump had declared a terror organization at this point. Like the gang designation had moved on to the terrorism designation, same with MS-13.
Right.
And on top of that, there was a ProPublica report that showed that 75% had no criminal background whatsoever, and up to 90% had like, you know, traffic tickets or
possession.
Just like really
offenses.
silly nonviolent offenses that don't reach the standard of deportation. And then the administration up and had one of their federal judges or one of their federal attorneys admit that Kilmar Abrego Garcia had a withholding of removal to El Salvador, but the administration had already deported them. So they recognized that they had made a mistake.
What is the status of that, by the way? Because I'm traveling and checked out of that.
I'm not certain as to what is going to happen, but there is a court proceeding taking place right now in terms of
because I know there's an
order from a Maryland judge, and I think that that's going to possibly escalate once again because the Supreme Court gave a unanimous 9-0 decision saying that the Trump administration must facilitate the return of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, and yet they have not done so, and they're using facilitate, like the language around facilitate to mean something it doesn't mean. They're saying it's not effectuate, it's facilitate, and therefore we don't have to do anything, right? So, and the Trump administration is like lying about it too. They're lying about the assessment. They're saying that it was a unanimous decision defending us when it clearly wasn't.
Peep Dark Soul real quick, 503 all the way at the top. It's on. Dark Soul says 2025. Come back down, right there.
Oh,
20. Oh, you read it.
Oh yeah, 2025. The Klan is still not designated as a terrorist organization. Yeah, of course not.
Right, and because I bring that up because as like a couple of years ago, this might have happened under Trump. This might have happened under Biden. But do you remember the black extremist? The black identity extremist.
Oh yeah. I remember the FBI designation for black identity extremism.
Yeah,
like black
all
Israelites
7 of them.
Stuff.
Yeah, the Hebrew Israelites.
Yeah.
They're being really mean on the street corner. And so like I think about the MS-13 and all these different gangs as terrorist organizations. There's so many like gang culture. That's really insidious is what I'm getting at. Because you realize gang cultures has been also intrinsically connected to revolutionary action, like worldwide historically.
Yeah.
It's gangs that usually where things start. The Black Panthers notoriously united gangs in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, it's just dangerous and scary. I don't have any like deep analysis on that, but like that's not an accident is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
Like the fact that they're saying we now have the wherewithal, like what's next? Is it fraternity tattoos? Is it Che Guevara tattoo? That's Antifa. Antifa's a gang. So now we get to deport you. Yes, that's wild shit.
Yeah,
wild
that is precisely what they're going to move towards, and this dovetails into another conversation that I've been having quite a bit, which is that the Trump administration is very smart and very insidious in the way that they're tackling some of these issues. Because they're getting their notes from the likes of the American Enterprise Institute and the Heritage Foundation.
People that have been studying and waiting for this opportunity for literal generation.
Like the unitary executive theory is not one that like the Trump administration came up with. They just simply adopted it in the Republican Party, and all of the think tanks associated with the Republicans and the conservative movement in America recognize Trump as a perfect vehicle to commit to this agenda. It's been implemented for the past 30, 40 years at this point. Same with the Federalist Society. This isn't Trump simply is the guy that is pushing all of this to its logical conclusion. And that's why I say it's insidious. They are eroding the First Amendment first by tackling the issue from non-citizens from the perspective of people on student visas or even green card holders, as a matter of fact, legal permanent residents that are lawfully inside of the United States by tackling the issue from the perspective of anti-Semitism, which has a lot of institutional clout and a lot of institutional power due to a lot of these Jewish affinity organizations that are simply there to defend Israel, but like can masquerade as
as anti-racist,
as
identity
anti-racist
politics
civil rights
organizations.
organizations, similar to the ADL.
Right.
So those institutions, those NGOs, and these organizations, and they get a lot of play within mainstream media. They have a lot of they still have a lot of institutional muscle, and the Trump administration is using that institutional muscle they have to basically collaborate with some of the most radical groups, all the way to like Beitar, which is a 501c3, but it's actually literally a terror cell operating inside of U.S. boundaries, and getting their notes from them to open the door to eroding the First Amendment.
Right.
And once they have set a precedent, a dangerous precedent, then they can utilize it against documented U.S. citizens as well. And not even documented U.S. citizens, but like just American natural-born U.S. citizens as well.
Yeah.
It's a very sinister way of like
I've
undermining one of the most powerful, one of the most popular constitutional protections that Americans have, citizen and non-citizen alike.
Yeah, I've definitely been looking at Zillow in Canada.
Yeah, you're gonna move
in case I have to split. I thought about that for you because you're not natural born. Like
no, I am.
Oh, I thought you.
Yeah, I'm an anchor baby.
Oh, well, I mean, it's not that matters, to be honest with you. You have any tattoos?
No.
Okay, well,
I don't have any tattoos. I'm pretty
what
white.
What about that beard?
I can shave it and change my name to Hank.
Hank Abby.
Yeah. The thing is, like, I always say, like, I'm at the end of that list. Like, by the time it gets to me, half of my chat will be, deported.
Yeah.
Given my financial status and given my status as a public personality, I'm not saying that like it will never get to that point. I can't make that prediction any longer because this administration is crazy. But like, all of those combined make me, they put me in the back of the list.
Yeah.
If I was who I am as a student activist, then I would be closer to on the possible CCOT list. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, similarly, I've had that kind of like, because when Trump got reelected, going into the election, me and my wife talked a lot about, all right, so what do if he wins? And then afterward, what do? And it's a constant conversation, especially with I think people said, oh, this is going to be bad. I don't know who knew it would be this bad this quickly. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's already releasing Trump 2028 hats.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like they're soft launching, a complete rearrangement of everything that America is stood for within the first 100 days. So it's no telling how bad it will get. I'm probably a little bit further in from you economically, but I'm still Black and I have a very particular history that's attached to my time here, my family, etc. Not like my family, like my mother and father, people that are behind me. And then I'm thinking about my own children. And I think about the fact that I have the resources. Canada's expensive as shit. I didn't know this until I started Googling. But I have the resources to get the out of here at this point in my life. But like the reality of the situation is that by the time it's time to get the out of here for the average person, it's gonna look like The Handmaid's Tale. You know what I'm saying? Or worse.
I'm also too stubborn. That's the other thing. Like I'm not,
You are.
I'm very
sick.
stubborn. I'm not leaving. I'm not going anywhere.
Like if I were you, I would have reduced down to 1 4-hour stream a week. Like 3 years ago.
No.
I told you that last time I was like, hey, you should stream less. You should take more naps. Do some yoga and stream less. But you have cranked it up. But also to crank up, on a lighter note, since the irony of Trump being back in office is that like immediate aftermath of the Democrats being like, oh, we need a leftist Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
And everybody was like, Hasan. And I was like, I mean, yeah, but we also don't necessarily need the leftist Joe Rogan. We just need.
I agree. Which it's ironic because I've been saying that nonstop, and like
You're saying that has made you the leftist Joe Rogan.
People don't hear it. I keep saying like this is not an issue that you can podcast your way out of, and that it's not just about having more like leftists, more bros who are leftists or whatever. I mean that can help, but like a lot of people, I think, even with this new recent New York Times piece that just came out, with the unfortunate title. I don't know if you saw it.
No, you have a New York Times piece?
There was a new New York Times style section piece that came out. And it basically, let me see. A progressive mind in a MAGA body was the original title.
Oh, God.
But they changed it to a progressive mind in a body made for the manosphere.
Dude, what are your proportions?
No, I don't know.
Even in real life, seeing you kind of being this proportion, it's still jarring.
I guess. But yeah, this was a long. It's an 11-minute long article, and it mostly focuses on the aesthetics of me being like a bro,
right?
And not really about like. I think a fairly significant part of this equation, which is like what I'm saying, how I speak to the issues that Americans experience.
Yeah,
I think part of the reason why they do that is because it would have to come with the recognition from the New York Times that
the Democrats are bad.
Well, they'll say that. They'll usually say that from a right-wing perspective.
They'll say that like, well, New York Times I know is a little less progressive, but like the more progressive criticism that goes to the Democrats, it's like the Democrats are losers or they're losing, right? They're not winning, but no one wants to say these things we're doing are bad for people, and that's why people have rejected us. And no amount of bros, no amount of you and what's the kind of fat white guy? He's a comedian.
Tim Dillon?
Sure.
There's a bunch of
You're
them.
like one of 3 white people I know. That's famous. It's that Stavros.
Stavi, baby.
Like no amount of you and Stavi and insert some other cool guys here, like on a podcast is going to motivate the average, because one of the things I brought up in my limited analysis of the election is that a lot of white dudes just stayed home and they're not engaged online. They're not engaged with politics. They don't actually know shit.
The ones that did go out and voted for Trump.
And the ones that, but that's like a unique, like even now, like I think it was really useful to point out that Trump has never had a popularity above like 50. Above like 40.
Post-election he did, but that went away very quickly.
Right. So he's never had high popularity, but he does have his fans and his sycophants and his followers and his evangelical wing. But like most regular people are repulsed by Trump, but not repulsed. That most regular people are indifferent because a lot of the things that he represents that other people see as problems, they're like, that sounds kind of bad, but whatever. You know? And so like those people aren't going to be motivated by culture war stuff. They're not going to be motivated by, political theater. They're thinking about basic needs being met. The rent,
affordability
like, is my job.
Even the people that voted for Trump, that especially like I think a lot of Gen Z, a lot of Gen Z men certainly had like that culture war attitude. But a lot of Gen Z men also, and a lot of like younger people were like, I'll give this a shot in the dark, in the same way that they did in 2016, where they were like, I want to break the system.
Right.
The system is not helping me. I want to break it with a mallet.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm going to vote for not the person who represents like
the system,
elite,
who's telling us this is working fine. Just let us keep doing our job.
And how do you get to that? You get to that. You get to that level. You find a new base of support by getting young men on board, because young men that were too young to remember how shitty the Trump administration was are willing to also entertain that notion.
Right.
This is a resentment towards institutions and status quo politics that led to Trump winning in 2016. It was something that I kept repeating in the buildup to this last election, where I just kept saying like there is still, like, people were talking about the economy having a soft landing. And I was like, dude, in 2016, the economy was significantly better than it is now, and people still voted for Trump because it wasn't good for them.
Right.
You're looking at the wrong metrics.
Yeah.
You're not looking at the anxiety that people feel. I know that that's like a trigger word almost, where people go, oh, white men and economic anxiety. But like, yes, white men who have racist tendencies, or white people who have racist tendencies, are far more susceptible to leaning in the direction of culture war resentments if they also have a lot of instability.
Yeah.
If they also are recognizing a lot of instability in their lives.
Yeah.
So the best way to combat that is by giving them something.
Yeah.
And the Trump administration gives them something. The Trump administration says, we are going to further undermine the people that are beneath you, that you see as beneath you, and that will magically elevate your status, like
Right.
the LBJ quote, right?
Right.
Whereas,
I mean, that goes back to the antebellum South. That's
exactly.
literally white sharecroppers endorsing the Confederacy because it meant that they still had a spot on the pecking order above, enslaved black people at the time.
Yes, exactly.
White people are like white Americans are like badass kids. And you just kind of have to, I'm thinking about like as a teacher.
Yeah.
Right? When I was a teacher, I knew who my badass kids were.
Yeah, you mean like bad kids?
Badass kids.
You mean badass? Like, what do you mean by badass? You mean like bad kids?
Like, like bad.
Yeah, bad
like
kids.
bad kids.
Yeah, because badass is like positive connotation.
Yeah. I don't know if I've ever used badass in a positive connotation, actually.
Well, white people use badass.
I know. But I do know that
It's
that's
saying
like
radical.
a white.
Like radical.
Yeah. Radical.
Yeah.
No, badass. No, badass is, I do understand.
You mean like asshole.
You're code switching for me now.
Yeah. You mean like asshole kids.
Yes,
Yeah, asshole kids. Yeah.
So
yeah.
asshole kids exist in every class. And like, a lot of my commentary about like the race politics of this has, been unpopular for reasons I understand. And some of it I amended in that last video, but I'm still of the mind, like when I say, like I'm not confident in AOC. Not for any other reason than she is not a white man, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the psychopath y'all have running this state is probably who's going to win the
I hope
the
not.
nominee.
He sucks.
I do too, but again, white people are badass kids, so you have to jingle keys like if you like there's a classroom with 30 people, and 13 of them are these badass kids, and you have to teach your lesson. You got to get through the class session. You can't call the principal to come get them because that's not something that happens in high need schools. You have to get them through the classroom, and you're counting on getting these 17 other kids to meet the standard, whatever else. So you have to design a lesson plan that neutralizes the badass kids. You have to figure out what's going to get them to shut the up and chill out. Is it a video? Do you give them comic books? Do you turn on some music? Do you sit with them like I've had and this is not this is actually with white kids when the 1 year that I taught white kids where I would have like 2 different lesson plans designed. One lesson plan for the kids I know that I could work with autonomy, and then like a whole section of my freaky like out of their mind kids, and we're just having a roasting session, and I'm calling it learning figurative language. Like literally, I've done that before.
Yeah.
That is
you gotta throw meat. You gotta throw meat in their way. I understand that. What I believe is that if you can earnestly communicate, set up your enemies, and actively go after them, you can overcome you can basically overcome those issues by just being like, listen, dude, I get it. Okay, you're afraid. Well, guess what? Donald Trump didn't fix your life. Democrats certainly up until this moment have never even entertained fixing your life. I'm telling you, your potholes are going to be fixed. I'm telling you, you're going to have housing. I'm telling you that you're going to have a good job with decent benefits and a good wage. And I think that the best possible way to overcome that is through implementing class politics as a class first approach.
Yeah.
Because Americans are not very class conscious. The working class.
They're not openly. They're not like what's the word? Consciously class conscious.
Yeah, they're not. They are not.
Like that Maggie alone shit lets me know that we're far more class conscious from like a intrinsic level.
Yeah. Like in an ironically almost reactionary way, where people only recognize their the issues that their class position presents when something like that happens.
Right.
But that is yet another instance of like how bad things have gotten, in my opinion. Americans are class conscious, of course. Billionaires are very class conscious.
Very class conscious.
But my point is like someone going about a class first political message can get a lot of leeway that way and not fall into the same traps. But that would require, unironically, attacking Democrats as well, and almost like a reverse Trump, like a bizarro Trump, where you have someone who's charismatic enough, who's willing to just like attack the media, willing to attack other institutional Democrats, and willing to declare even members of their own party as enemies. And I think that
would be the first time I would like, just hearing you say that. I'm like, oh man, imagine somebody running as a Democrat that admitted that they suck and pointed at the ones that suck openly. Yeah. That would actually be immediately effective. That would be immediately effective.
Yeah.
Because, and that's also the scary thing about populism, is that populism is like an incredibly useful tool that has like the lowest barrier of entry.
Yeah.
If you're charismatic, and that's why I'm scared of this guy here in California, because I don't know if he's all that charismatic. I haven't seen enough of him, but he looks the part, and he's clearly his policies and his messaging is so dog shit though. That's the reason why I think he's gonna fail. But look, so you know him now here, you know these things.
Yeah.
But he could be a whole different person in 4 years from now, or 3 years from now. And that person running for president with the right messaging could easily use the same populist approach.
Yeah.
To
hit the Barack
continue.
Obama lines, like
right.
We're a divided America. This is not a red America or a blue America. It's the
one
United
America.
States of America. Exactly.
Which
is
my Barack Obama videos are like, I almost quit YouTube. I did 2 Barack Obama videos in 2022 maybe. And I almost stopped making video essays because nobody watched them, and everybody that watched it. And this is like, I hadn't even fully arrived at the current politics I am now. So it was like the nicest Barack Obama is bad videos I could have ever made. And they flopped in the algorithm, and half the comment section. I mean, now it's fine, but like I remember the comment sections being really angry at me.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, wow, we're clearly, and that was one of the frustrating things about.
He is one of the modern villains, I think, of American politics, like straightforwardly.
Yeah,
like a lot of the shit that he did during his presidency, but also after his presidency, has directly, by I think mere accident too.
It wasn't the thing I'll give Barack Obama is that he believes his shit.
I don't even agree with that. I don't believe that.
Well, he did it about black people. His like race politics are 100% the race politics of Gen Xers and boomers toward black people.
No, I agree with that.
So everything else, maybe not. I think he was just trying to, play the middle. I don't know why he was so important. That was so important to him.
No, I think it's because he also was like firmly committed to neoliberalism,
right?
And was disingenuous enough to like push forward a populist message to win an incredible mandate, only to then turn around and
that's why I say I think he legit loves neoliberalism.
He does, yeah.
He loves.
He also I think is like, I think he's a deeply selfish person who only cared about elevating his own status.
Oh yeah,
and that in and of itself is like perfectly visible in what he chooses to talk about right now in the second Trump administration. Part of the reason why I'm also saying this is also because of his betrayal against Jeremiah Wright. And his betrayal, like he used Jeremiah Wright to basically get like momentum in Chicago politics.
Do you know okay, so you know the deep lore. Barack, like Obama was too white and too Ivy League when he ran the first time. He got beat the shit by Bobby Rush, I think, some ex-Panther.
Yeah, who also is. Ironically enough, now I think he's
not a MAGA, no.
No. But last thing he did was endorse Michael Bloomberg.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that. The black bourgeoisie, they loved Michael. Like I remember, I knew several Bloomberg fans in Atlanta, the home of the black bourgeoisie.
Stacey Abrams.
Stacey Abrams being one of them.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happened with her. I feel like they let her out the. I don't know. I feel like she could have helped, but maybe was this shit happening that I didn't know about?
I think Stacey Abrams is like one. being
She's laying low.
being a black woman, she already gets like a shit ton of resentment from a lot of people. But then also on top of that, she was not charismatic enough in the same way that Barack Obama is to like navigate through that while also maintaining the same exact attitude of Barack Obama in terms of like
neoliberal politics,
calcified institutional defense, defending Michael Bloomberg, bringing her lawyer friend on board in a somewhat.
I've heard people are going. They were trying. I think one of the reasons why she's gone, I've heard locally, is that the local Republicans are trying to like go after her legally.
Oh yeah.
But I just remembered like being well aware. Like the only reason Biden won Georgia was because of the work she was doing in Georgia, and I think nationwide, but definitely in Georgia with like the voter stuff.
Yeah.
And like I do know that is one. Who is Jerry Connolly? So like,
Jerry Connolly is resigning because he's cancer treatments didn't work. He's the face of the Democratic Party. I'm confused. You don't.
Yeah, I don't be paying. Like I've
what is this?
I have just went to. I am in terms of like mainstream politics. I've kind of checked the fuck out. I'm doing.
We're locked in here. Don't worry. I'll fill you in on everything. Yeah, he's not seeking re-election and is stepping back soon as oversight ranking member. Jerry Connolly is cancer ridden. Okay, and he's a long-serving Virginia Democrat. And he announced his diagnosis 6 months ago. I promised transparency, Connolly said in an open letter to his constituents Monday. After grueling treatments, we've learned that the cancer, while initially beaten back, has now returned. He was 75 years old. Now, what's interesting is AOC was trying to get this position as the ranking member of the Oversight Committee, right? And Nancy Pelosi,
good old Nancy,
was in a hospital with a broken ass in France because she fell and broke her ass. And from that hospital, she was making phone calls to be like, no, it has to be Jerry Connolly as the ranking member. She's not even a part of the Democratic Party at this point. She's literally like Speaker Emerita. She has like a position of a lot of influence, but basically was using all the influence that she has within the Democratic Party to make this guy, 75-year-old with cancer, the ranking member of the Oversight Committee, as opposed to AOC.
Yeah, these are easy targets. It's frustrating when you put it like that. Like what you like. This is feeding into something you said earlier, which is
Nancy Pelosi fought from a French hospital bed with a broken hip to keep this geriatric with cancer. Yeah, you can get it from there. To keep this geriatric with cancer in office so she could snub AOC. Now 6 months later, he's having to step down from oversight ranking member anyway. The Democrat, says Mike from PA. Absolutely correct. Oh, incredible stuff.
But yeah, so the Democrats, like Nancy Pelosi, nobody likes her. She's an easy target.
Jerry's a young 74, cancer notwithstanding, Congressman Beyer said, as they literally took the position away from AOC.
That sounds like a really funny line from like a I don't know who makes comedies now, but like that's a great comedy line.
Yeah, you have to wait your turn around here. Representative Marcy Kaptur, a 4-decade veteran of Capitol Hill, told Notice. Great. That's just the way it works, they said.
Yeah. So these are easy marks. These are easy marks for any, and that's again the scary thing. And maybe it needs to be maybe this is AOC's like line in where like it would not be hard to come up as a progressive populist by targeting these geriatric Democrats that have been doing shit for the last 30 years. Yeah. This guy, obviously, I guess, Pelosi, I can't remember South Carolina, the black guy in South Carolina who I hate, whose name I can't remember right now. Like Eric Adams, like it wouldn't be much to just come out and say, because people are saying, like the irony of like the right-wing talking point around black conservatives is that every black Democratic voter, even the ones that were highly enthused about Kamala when she was running, knows the Democrats ain't shit. We've known this forever. We just don't feel like there's much to do about it other than, continue to push the fascism down the line a couple of years, which is, clearly that didn't work this time around. Yeah. So like if someone were to come forward and be like, hey, I'm willing to say that these guys suck. But I guess the thing is though, that also, I was talking to, who was I talking to that said this? Some recent podcast I was on mentioned that we're also primed for a Tea Party movement And the Tea Party movement is actually the precursor to what allows Trump to be a thing.
I've been talking about this for quite a while. I'm very familiar with the Tea Party movement. The problem with that is that it was not an organic movement. It was actually completely created by the Koch brothers.
Get George Soros to do it.
But George Soros loves the institutional Dems. That's the problem. George Soros is and it's not even George, it's Alex now, because George is like basically dead. His son, Alex Soros, who is married to Huma Abedin, Hillary Clinton's famous advisor, Huma Abedin, who was married to Anthony Weiner back in the day.
Okay.
Yeah, so like these guys are not, like, they're not invested in a Bernie style left populist uprising within the democratic infrastructure, because a left populist movement would undermine their position as billionaires.
Right.
So why would any billionaire
contribute to their own
demise? Exactly. So
it hence me keeping my I'm just saying prepared.
Yeah.
It's me being prepared.
It's not gonna,
which people should all be.
It's not gonna happen, is what I'm saying. It's not going to happen in that way. It has to be grassroots, and there is grassroots momentum, grassroots mobilization. True. And that's why I don't like shit on all these mainstream institutions that are coming around to like offering people like myself coverage, because they recognize the popularity, but they don't want to scratch the surface of like where that popularity comes from. So they just stick to the aesthetics. It must be because he has this like MAGA adjacent packaging.
Because he's a bro.
Yeah, it's because he's
plays
a bro.
basketball.
They don't.
He's got a dog.
Yeah, they don't realize that, like, no, a big part of my popularity also comes from my honesty and stubborn attitude, where I'm telling it like it is, you know, in the most basic terms. Like, that's precisely the reason why, no matter how much funding other like Democratic Party adjacent groups might get, and how much momentum they might get, and there are examples of this out there in independent media, the David Pakmans and the Midas Touch of the world. Yeah. Like, there is a limit to how much
the establishment only wants to go to the surface level.
Yeah.
And see how they can co-opt it and integrate it into the system they've already built to feed the same machine.
Yeah.
With that, I watched your video the other day with a little Schadenfreude. We're doing news. I was about to, because I just watched your Daily Wire Schadenfreude video where everybody's channels are dying, which I always knew that their subscriber count never matched their like popularity. People will subscribe. Well, first off, bots, one. Yeah. Also, people will subscribe to channels. Reactionaries will subscribe to a channel that says a mean thing about insert population here they don't like and never watch again because it's not something they're actually motivated by. I forgot where I was going with that. Well, but it's funny to hear.
They're falling apart partially because of the popularity, I would say, of the Trump administration. Like, there's no need for guys like that when Trump is in power. And then Trump is in power and your financial situation is not getting better. You go, okay, what the fuck is this? I thought if we just like dominate trans people enough, then we'll ultimately get financial freedom.
Remove DEI, then I'll get the job that I'm not qualified for.
And it's like that's precisely the problem. That's not happening. This happened in the first Trump administration as well. A lot of these like right-wing guys that got so much prominence leading up to the election started slowly dying out. Some of them straightforwardly were white nationalists and white supremacists. And a lot of people started moving away from that because people recognized that this kind of politics in practice was gross and it was too much for them. Like child separation as a mechanism of deterrence was like a bridge too far for many people. And, you know, they realize that this is bullshit, that they're being served bullshit.
No, what I was trying to figure out from when I was watching the video was why are Morgan Cooper, is that her name? Something Cooper?
Brett Cooper.
Brett Cooper. Why are her and Asmund Gold still working? Like, what are they doing? Like, because I do not, like, I've tried to watch, I try to keep up with shit, right? A little bit. I'm a video essayist nerd for real. That's why I'm good at my job. Yeah. Because that's all I really watch on YouTube most of the time, in between like a football podcast and something about anime or a horror story, whatever. But I'll dabble when I see things are popping off on the timeline. Okay, who's this? What's this? What's happening? And I don't know. Do I even want to start fires with certain people while I'm here? Because I've also gotten blowback from another individual that whose name I don't want to bring up, who had people emailing in my DMs a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, yeah, I have nothing to do with this. Please stop. Don't give me an excuse to make a video about it. But I'm wondering, like,
I feel like I know who you're talking about.
How is, like, I've never seen Brett Cooper videos. Never popped up on my timeline.
Yeah,
I only remember her because you mentioned her years ago.
I'll tell you what it is. Brett Cooper is like the right wing's answer deliberately to what I was doing at the time, because they're much smarter than liberals are in general. Right. They openly admit this to this as well. Like, Turning Point USA documents show, like, basically do what Hasan is doing in their.
But it looks so fake, though.
It is, but it doesn't matter. People still, you know,
she's talented enough to carry it.
Yeah, I think she is. I think she is talented for sure. It's because she was doing what I do in the way that, like, I don't always serve you the vegetables. I give you some, you know, I give you some sweet around it as well, right? Like, I don't just talk about politics or reveal my worldview every single moment. Right. But I do it in the process of like talking, reacting to silly shit, or talking about culture and lifestyle. And that's precisely what she does, where she focuses on, like, things that are popping in the ecosystem, like, you know,
not enough fuckable women in video games.
Well, that's Asmongold. So
that's Asmongold. Okay.
So Asmongold does that as well, where he is, like, established. He's an established, prominent figure that has, like, all the reactionary tendencies that gamers have. And he, for years and years, has been doing this, like, anti-woke shit in gaming. Right. And it was perfectly organic for him to move into the political sphere as well, in the political arena as well, and then talk about Trump from the perspective of content and present himself as, like, an apolitical, unbiased guy who just seemingly always on board with Donald Trump. Right. So those are... Notice how for both of these guys, for Brett Cooper is drama and culture, and for Asmongold is also drama and culture as well, but, like, mostly gamer related shit. It's not like Ben Shapiro in the way that Ben is a political commentator first and foremost, and boring and nerdy and annoying, and tries to, like, intellectualize the reactionary ideology. For them, they're just like you. They're a regular guy who has these opinions and thinks Trump is based. There are a lot of people like that. Yeah. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people, especially online, like Asmongold.
The online, because, you know, when I started out, it's funny, my first, like, super big video was about Bo Burnham. And in the middle of that video, I reject the idea of ever being a bread tuber, because I had the suspicion, even though I loved me some ContraPoints and, you know, all the OG bread tube, you know, founding figures. I had the looming suspicion that the BreadTube audience was toxic, and that the environment was toxifying, and not overly serious, right? In terms of, like, actual, like, IRL action towards, you know, liberation, yada, yada, yada. Plus, I just, you know, politics is stressful. But, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. Just go off the plane. What I was trying to get at basically is that, like, when I look at the landscape of, like, what our audience is versus what they do, and then what their audience is versus what they do, it feels like we're going to be much easier in terms of just the career aspect to sustain. Like, the fact that I came up under while Joe Biden was president. I don't think so. If we elect, you know, if Kwame Ture resurrects and becomes president of the United States in 2028. And we have the most Pan-Africanist, Black power, worst nightmare of certain people presidency of all time, I don't think I'm going to lose momentum as a channel. You know what I'm saying? And, like,
I mean, I would probably quit because I would go and join the administration as the propaganda minister.
Yeah, we would do that for you. We got to talk about white people. Can I plug? Am I too early to plug? We got some more news to get to. What we want to do?
Whatever you want.
No, I'm gonna stick with water because I know I'm gonna eat. I've been I'm trying to get like you. I'm trying to lose like 20, 30 pounds. That sounds horrible.
Healthy Middle Eastern chicken. It's actually delicious though.
Okay, a healthy Middle Eastern chicken. See,
Yeah.
See if you just said chicken.
Yeah. What did you think I was gonna get? Just like bland
chicken,
boiled chicken,
boiled chicken, the best way.
No way.
So white people, my where the camera at? Only on Nebula, talking to white people. The first Nebula original feature from FD Signifier, which you were in, which you had. You had a funny conversation. I don't know if you watched it yet. Everybody, you
told me not to watch it.
Well, no, I told you not to watch the other video I put on YouTube that was about how in whiteifying your presence is, because you're kind of like the son of the online left right now. And like,
I didn't even realize that was what that was about. I thought the video that you didn't want me to watch was the white people one that I was in, because you were saying that it would
ruin the point.
If you watch it, it would ruin the point.
So I made a video talking about the online left, like, political landscape. Because the thing that I started thinking about since the Drake video, right? So after the Drake Kendrick video, I knew I was about to hit 1 million within like 6 months to a year. I just like, all right, the momentum has been supercharged. I knew I was going to hit it eventually anyway, but clearly I need to start thinking about it actively because it's incoming. What I noticed is that between first, becoming relevant and like that point, my Black audience had begun to shrink. Not in terms of like losing Black viewers, but
more white people were coming in.
More white people were coming in. The percentage, I think YouTube specifically, like, I just don't think Black people get their politics from YouTube. I know, like, historically, all of the people that I knew were politically inclined were Instagram and now TikTok, Twitter. The video essay as a thing to consume was not something that had crossed over. And then YouTube's algorithms, I think YouTube may have low-key like the worst overall algorithm definitely for Black political content. But I think in general, in terms of like building novel bubbles, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like I know if I stopped using TikTok about a couple months ago because I got hacked, and I was like, all right, that's just God telling me to leave it alone. But I know if I get on TikTok if I get on it for like 3 days straight, within that 72-hour period, I'm gonna have the algorithm I had for that whole 3-year period while I was using it. Because TikTok is so intuitive of knowing what I want and what like I really want to watch, and also what I want to be exposed to, etc. Whereas YouTube is just like, oh, you watched this video, here's 30 more videos from this specific person.
Yeah.
And maybe a handful of videos that this person, other viewers that watch this person watch, which is still good. Like, it's good for me and my channel, right? Like, when a video blows up, that's really good for my channel because they will be flooded with my content. But you have to put in so much effort to get YouTube to say, if you like FD, you'll probably like Lil Bill. You'll probably like Andrewism. You'll probably like these people. YouTube doesn't naturally do that. It's one of the reasons why I share so many videos on my
YouTube
page.
Naturally always wants you to somehow loop back around to white supremacist,
right? Or Mr. Beast.
Yeah, that is what it is though. Like, YouTube's algorithm is like tweaked in a way where it almost always goes back to politics is almost always dominated by right-wing shit. Yeah. TikTok is the only platform where it's like a 50-50 split, and that was enough for people to be like, we gotta get rid of this. We gotta get rid of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hasan Reactions, one of the best ones in the React channel.